Hi everyone, this is the Michael Myers fanatic here to do a re-review, I guess I should say, because I've already done it once, but I didn't like the way it was done, so I came back to do it again. And tonight I'm going to be talking about the 2008 psychological thriller slash horror film The Strangers, and it's basically a home invasion movie. And according to the writer, Bryan Bertino, who's also the director, this all takes place on the evening of February the 11th of 2005. I thought that was very cool that he actually gave you a time when this is happening. He even gave you a literal time. He said 4 a.m., so that's cool. I wish he had given us a location. That would have been awesome. But anyway, as I said, it's basically a home invasion, and it tells the story of a couple that just got back from a friend's wedding reception. You have Kristen McKay, and she's played by Liv Tyler, and James Hoyt, Scott Speedman. You have Gemma Ward, who plays Dollface. Kip Weeks plays the man in the mask. Glenn Howerton plays Mike, which is James' best friend. And you have Laura Margolis. She plays as Pinup Girl. Then you have Alex Fisher and Peter Clayton, and they play the Mormon Boys. So they basically get home from the wedding reception, and James asks Kristen to marry him, and she says, "I'm not ready." James gets upset, and she says, "Can we talk about it?" This scene, it kind of annoyed me, because I'm like, well, if you said you don't want to be married, what is there really to talk about? That's just the way I see it. But getting on with the movie, there's some tension there between the two of them. So he basically says, okay, you know what? I'm going to go get some cigarettes. I'm getting out of here for a minute. I think he basically said that to get out of the house. That's my take on that, because he probably wanted to cool off. So when he leaves, as a matter of fact, before he leaves, he gets a knock at the door, and the woman, who's later known as Dollface, and she's unmasked at this point, but her face is obscured by the darkness, and she says, "Is Tamara home?" And James says, "No, you have the wrong house." She says, "Are you sure?" And so basically James leaves to go and do what he was going to do in the first place. And once he leaves, Dollface comes back again, knocks on the door, and it all starts over again. Is Tamara home? Then Kristen says, "You already came by here?" She says, "Are you sure?" So basically, as the night goes on, this is going on and on, over and over. She keeps knocking on the door, and Kristen's afraid. What I will say about this movie is that I really love the simplicity of it. It's a very, very simple story, and I love that. I really love what Bryan Bertino did with it. He used the location very well. I really like the fact that it was all confined to one tiny space. Their summer home, the Hoyt summer home. And when I was watching this, I said to myself, Bryan Bertino did a movie like that in there? And I got that from a line from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where Will Smith burnt down the house, and then Uncle Phil's friend said to him, he says to the butler, "You cooked a meal like that in there?" And I feel the same way about Bryan. I'm wondering, how did this guy pull this off in such a little space like that? But he did it. And kudos to him. I like the film. Of course, the strangers end up killing James Hoyt. Now, the fate of Kristen McKay is kind of ambiguous because it sort of seems like she's dead, but when the one Mormon boy goes to touch her, she wakes up screaming and it goes off. What I will say about this, though, is that when they ask the strangers, why are you doing this? Dollface replies, we're doing it because you were home. Here's my nitpick with that. Dollface is basically saying that this was a random act of violence. And I can understand that. But what I can't understand is, if this attack was so random, how was it so planned out? You may say, Myers fan, what do you mean? I'll tell you what I mean. In the scene where Mike drives up, they throw a brick at him. You can easily explain it away and say, okay, maybe they found a brick somewhere. At least it looked like a brick. That's what I'm assuming it was that broke the window. Well, explain this to me. When they were about to leave, James and Kristen, how is it that pinup girl just happened to be right there waiting for him? It's almost like she anticipated the fact that they might try to leave. So if you block somebody from leaving, that means that you anticipated it. And what's that guy's name? The man in the mask? He brought an axe with him. So, if you bring an axe with you, then how is it random? Because you anticipated the fact that you may need weapons to carry out your deed. That's really the only gripe I have with this film. Other than that, like I said, I love the simplicity of it. You know, I would have given it 5 stars except for that little thing right there. And another thing, I heard a fan say, I don't know how true it is, but I heard a fan say that he believes that both of them died, James and Kristen. Here's why that's flawed. They're basically saying that they're telling the story from the eyes of the victims, through the eyes of the victims. So, if the victims are dead, how do you know in which order each thing occurred? How do you know if they're dead? Because they weren't around to tell you. Doesn't make any sense. But, ladies and gentlemen, I really enjoyed it. Except for those 2 things, I thought it was a great movie. I loved the simplicity of it. It reminded me of John Carpenter's Halloween. And I did watch a little bit of the interview with Bryan Bertino, where he actually mentions Halloween. So I kind of figured there was some influence there, because of the simplicity of the story and the environment. And I thought it was great. I know I was kind of hard on it the first time, but I did go back and rewatched it, and I said, you know what, this is a great movie. I cannot wait to see the sequel, although I will say this about the sequel. I read some things about it on Wikipedia that kind of disappointed me, but I'm not going to mention it here. We'll cover that in the sequel if I get to it. You know, if God willing and I get to the sequel, we'll cover that there, in that territory. So, ladies and gentlemen, from May 30th, 2008, you have The Strangers, and it stars Liv Tyler as Kristen McKay and Scott Speedman as James Hoyt. You have Gemma Ward as Dollface, Kip Weeks as the Man in the Mask, and Laura Margolis as Pinup Girl. Ladies and gentlemen, The Strangers, from May 30th, 2008. I'm the Michael Myers fanatic. I approve this message once again from May 30th, 2008. Bryan Bertino's The Strangers. Thank you very much.